to get into the correct top of the backswing position.
Okay, the preset drill is when I take my normal stance here, and then I preset the wrists and the club into this position. Now you'll note that I haven't got my hands too far out and I haven't got them too close into my body here. They're in a nice, comfortable position.
The shaft parallel to your feet line.
Right.
Okay, you don't want the shaft back here or over here.
Right.
Very important, because really this is the top of the backswing position. As long as the right arm stays relaxed, all you've got to do from here is simply make your turn. And there we go, in a good, solid, wide, wound-up position. You can see you've maintained the distance from here to here. We've got a right angle formed at the top there, good distance under your right arm, so we've got an L almost both sides, on top and underneath. Now we're in a position, if we move correctly down, the club's going to get on a great plane, and also I've got plenty of power right there, Nick.
Right.
I remember when you did this drill, you felt more comfortable hitting balls this way than you did from a regular position.
A lot of times it's easier because you're in the position you want to be in at the top. You don't have to worry about folding your wrists or cocking your wrists at the top. And, you know, you saw how many balls I hit like this. I think I wore a hole in an 8-iron once doing it.
Okay, well, let's see here. So keep it nice and relaxed there and just make a good turn, and off we go. Oh, you still haven't...
That felt familiar.
Yeah, you haven't lost the old feeling, that's for sure. That looked good. Must be getting old. My joints are creaking here, Nick.
I guess you're getting ready for the senior tour or something. You maybe need a little bit of WD-40 on that there, Dave.
Well, you can see we really focus so much attention on the right arm that we've devised a couple of little teaching aids to assist us in the proper feel. And, you know, the kids' water wing here, you know, obviously this also helps in wet weather. Or otherwise, we've devised this little device called the right angle, and it's just really to put your right arm in the proper position. I mean, you can hit balls with them, and it's just to give you the proper feeling of where you should be at the top of the swing with the right arm, because most people do not focus enough attention on this right arm position.
Absolutely, and I think as I'll describe here, if I hit a couple of balls down here, you'll be able to see how much more width I get at the top of my swing with this little wing on.
That looks good. Obviously, this is an artificial aid, and you can't use them in tournament play, but it certainly does give you a good feel on the practice tee.
It's comfortable enough that I can use it on the practice tee. And why don't you just tell everyone what this right angle does, huh?
Yes, well, basically what it does, it ensures that my right arm gets into the 90-degree position at the top. You can see it doesn't go beyond that 90-degree position, which is great because it gives me a great feeling at the top of the swing where I should be. So just you simply fit it on. It's something we devised and really has helped a lot of people. So
right. Well,
really you can hit balls with it and not even feel it's on after a short period of time. So it's just a case of trying to make a normal swing and sensing this.
Good.
About time I got a lesson from you.
That was really nice.
That straightening of the right leg causes so many problems. If I look at a lot of golfers, it's an area I really focus on. The fact that you don't get your weight into your right side, you don't load up, and the big thing is from here, the legs seem to get too far ahead of everything else. The hands and arms can't catch up.
And leave everything behind. And I know that's something that, you know, we've paid particularly attention to the last couple of years, David, and that's trying to keep the flex in this right knee and ensure that we turn into it. Instead of letting it straighten here, we try and keep it flexed and turn into it here more, which will get you a better body coil.
Yeah, and if you do that, just do that again and have a look at it. Because if you just straighten that leg, you can see the big gap between the knees. The left knee tends to shoot out, the left hip goes down and get into a reverse pivot situation. Okay, so now the opposite happens, obviously, if you keep the flex in the knee. You get nicely behind the ball, the hips are more level, and you're in a much better balanced, loaded position. And certainly getting these legs in this position, this right knee flex and the left knee pointing more in rather than out, it puts you in such great balance, and the legs obviously provide the balance to your golf swing. A nice little exercise to check if you're doing it correctly, Nick, is to, as you swing back, make sure that keeping the flex in the right knee, get to the top there and just feel that you could actually just raise your left foot off the ground very slightly. Good, and again. Good. Now you can obviously feel here that you've got the weight into your right side.
Right.
If you straighten your leg and the left hip goes down and your left knee shoots out, there's no way you can actually lift your left foot off the ground because there's too much weight on the left leg. All right, so let's do that once more, and then I'm going to come down and... Good. Now, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to just come behind you and hold your right knee and give you the feeling of what you need to have in order to get that sensation. Okay. You might just swing it back once more and just feel this. Now, you can see here, you feel like you're actually, I'm sure, sitting into it a bit more. There's more flex here, more pressure on the thigh.
A lot of tension on the inside of my thigh here.
Okay, good. And the other important point to note, as you swing back, see how your right knee actually rotates and swivels to a point where it actually now looks on line with the outside of your foot. So in other words, your foot being turned out slightly to dress, your knee is actually rotated from its original starting position in line with the foot. Okay? All right, now I'm going to hold this right knee for you, and you go ahead and hit a shot. Well, that was good. I could really sense that you were sitting and flexing into that knee, and I'm sure if you do that correctly, okay, let's do it once more. Let me do the opposite here. You just swing it back, don't hit it, and I'll just try to really... You can sense where you are. You feel more of a tilt there, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still on my left side here, and I can feel that my hips and my legs are going to work the opposite way on the way down, and I'm going to do that.
Right, okay. Now we get that right knee in position. Right, you don't pay me enough money to do this all day, Nick. Why don't you go and practice on your own now?
Oh, hang on, I haven't had my money's worth yet, have I?
Right, let's summarize to the top of the backswing. At halfway back, make sure when your left arm is parallel to the ground that the butt end points between your feet and the ball. As far as your right arm is concerned, make sure at the top of the backswing that your right arm forms this 90-degree angle. You're then in a good position to come down. And lastly, check that right knee remains flexed. Sit into that knee, see how much coil and how much power you get. Examining great players over the years and good ball strikers, the thing I see, which is such a common denominator, is the way these players change direction. In other words, their transition. What seems to happen is that the plane is slightly steeper on the backswing, and as they change direction, it gets a little shallower, and then pretty much gets into the same position as they were to address through impact. And this, I think, is the key for good, solid ball striking and good direction as well.
Well, I agree as well, David, and I think it's something that we've looked at in other players. Hogan and Nelson and all the great players seem to do that, and I think it's something that's helped for my consistent ball striking.
Well, why don't you just illustrate this? Because I say the faults that I see with so many players, when they get to the top of the swing, you just get it to the top there, is that what happens is that the club actually gets too steep, and then from here, in order to keep the club coming from the inside, players then have to do this. So the fault really is the fact that it's too steep as they change direction, and then to shallow it out, have to do something to compensate with their body. And it does get the club from the inside, but it really puts them out of position and doesn't allow them to use their body correctly through impact. So something that I've seen a lot with good players is the steep change of direction. But, you know, being a good player, they'll always find a way to get into an impact position.
Right.
So I think if you want to illustrate the right way here, Nick, just if you can illustrate the fact where it is halfway back. Okay, now as you complete, okay, right, now we're in a position where as you're completing, your body's starting to unwind, and this really happens as you're going back, your body's starting to unwind, going to the left here. Right, but as this takes place, the shaft tends to now shallow out. So we've gone from this plane now as we start down to this plane. And the hands are working out, and it's really as the left side of the body is starting to work towards the target. Now, as we work down, we can see the plane is pretty much parallel to the original starting position. In other words, the way you started to address with the shaft, and as it comes back, it's going to pretty much mirror image the position it was at address. And this is the important thing. And it really happens, I think, Nick, as your body's moving, and I'm sure you feel it in your right arm. What points do you sense when this is taking place?
I have a tendency, once I get to the top of my swing, that I start getting my right arm to get in too close to my body. And even though the club's shallowing out, I haven't left myself much room to get back onto the ball, and I get steep and I hit the ball high. So what I try and do is feel that my right elbow stays the same width away